Hello everyone, welcome to the official opening of Woven Network Nordics digital exhibition. My name is Aitza Massanikova and I'm the project manager of Woven Network Nordics at Intercont in Stockholm, Sweden. And I'm very happy that tonight here with me I have 3 out of 4 of our Woven Network Nordics artists, and the 4th one is most likely watching us. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us. So our artists here tonight are Dina Abu Hamdan, Brynhild Bye-Tiller, and Katarzyna Piórek. Welcome, dear artists. And Emma Hirsk is watching from home. Unfortunately, she has fallen ill. And together with us, there are also Ivona Price, the CEO of Intercult, and our magnificent communication and technical help, Vera Prochki from to Mariupol in Ukraine, one of our partners. So this event is being live streamed on our Intercult Facebook page, as well as on Woven Network page. So wherever you are watching, I hope that you will enjoy the session. We planned for about 1.5 hours for tonight. We will see how it goes, what kind of flow the artists will have, maybe, and how much they want to share with you. So perhaps it will be a bit shorter, perhaps a bit longer. But let me tell you what we are actually going to talk about today. Woven Network Nordics, what it is. It's a digital residency that is focused on highlighting voices of women, specifically of women artists during COVID-19 pandemic. And through our women artists, we want to highlight the experience and voices of other women and how they have been experiencing COVID-19. Now, the artists have been working together for quite some time. It's a generous amount of time we have spent here together. It's been about 9 months. So the project started in March, I believe, or April 2021. And it finishes today with this official launch of the artists' work, of their digital exhibition. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they will present to you what they have been working on and how they will interact with each other as well. What does it mean to have a digital residency? You will understand that today it is a bit more difficult to collaborate physically because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the artists have spent all this time to meet online. They have had private meetings, they have had public presentations talking about their individual art practices as well as about their shared approach to the project. One of the elements of Woven Network Nordics has been this innovative use of digital tools. So they have also been experimenting with different ways of online presentation. And yes, they have done several different things. Of course, we couldn't eventually prevent them from meeting physically. So in the end, we had one physical meeting in Trondheim, where one of our partner organizations is based. And the artist also developed one physical exhibition in Studio 44, an artist-run space here in Stockholm. And they will talk about this one themselves as well. I would just like to say one thing, and that is that the project has been funded by Nordic Culture Fund. We're very thankful to them, and that we have several partners. One of our partners is to Mariupol, our Ukrainian communication help, and Fable Vision in Stockholm, Transform Festival, and we have also Nordic Theater Laboratorium. So we have appreciated all the help from our partners. What will happen after my hopefully brief introduction? I will pass on the words to Ivona Price, who will talk a bit more broadly about the context of Woven Network Nordics and how it came to start, and also why we have been working with this, why we find it important. And most importantly, after Ivona, we will pass the words to our artists who will show you their work and who will launch the exhibition by talking about the project. I will also show you that, let me just share my screen. So you can see my screen now. Woven Network Nordics project is accessible on 2 pages here on wovenart.works, where you can take a look around the website. When you scroll around, you can read more about the project, read more about the artists, for example. If we go back about the theme, there are the so-called woven sessions where the artists have been recording. It's actually something really interesting for you to watch. The artists together have been recording different sessions, experimenting with overlapping screens, for example, in Zoom, and so forth. Different topics for each 3 of the sessions that have been recorded. And you can also hear their woven voices presentations they have recorded in the past, talking about how and what they do. But I will leave it up to you to explore this later on when our artists are talking. And yeah, it's one more thing is that the selection of the artists, they are all from Nordic countries. Let me just stop sharing this again. We have 2 artists based in Sweden, in Stockholm, Katarzyna Piórek and Emma Hirsk. We have one in Copenhagen, in Denmark, Dina, and Brynhild is based in Trondheim in Norway. I think that's about all that I had on my brief introduction list. After the artists have been talking, we will open this to questions from you. And we will also be maybe chatting a bit among ourselves about the project, because it's been such a long time. And we are celebrating that it has had such a successful outcome, as I think. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the evening, and I will pass on the word to Ivona.
Thank you, Alice. So I am Ivona Price, to introduce myself, and I am director of Intercult in Stockholm, Sweden, an organization working with the international and intercultural collaborations in Europe and beyond. And now when we are sitting here, it feels like the chances of our small project to finalize it in time and with grace were threatened several times during the last weeks. From global to local challenges, the webmaster vanished before Christmas, coming back and doing great job now. The pretty intense political situation in Ukraine and the threats towards the peace in Europe are shaking the politics. Brynhild warned us for the heavy winds in Trondheim with the risk to break the internet transmission, and Emma got sick in COVID just for a few hours ago, not being able to join the presentation. I can also clearly hear the wind outside of my window in Stockholm. So power, the artist and the audience be with us tonight. And the introduction to the project. Collaboration of artists is of a huge importance for maintaining the contacts between societies of different cultures and geography, allowing the sustainability of both creativity and human relations between countries in and beyond Europe, in times of almost closed borders and vanished mobility. When global pandemics is causing the crisis in the cultural sector, especially in the cultural sector and in the European societies globally, we need to work with solidarity and treat both the public spaces in our cities and the digital spaces as public spaces, as common public spaces for Europe. Artists are most impacted by the pandemics themselves. In professional roles, but also in private lives, being thus able to self-reflect on the situation as a megaphone of our society, as culture usually is. The works in the project highlight therefore women's varied roles and sensitivity. The experience of all work with international projects at Intercult is based on the value of working with artists in different countries and from different cultures working together on shared thematic and sharing practice. The importance of culture for the societies in the time of crisis for challenging the feelings and as a safe space for meetings, even if offered digitally, and the importance of digital skills for artists and creatives. So the history of this project, an immediate reaction of Intercult and partners for the killing situation for culture, which hit us in March 2020, was how can we in a structured way engage artists in showing consequences of women workers, especially affected by the pandemics in all sectors for the world around, to document a disaster within the frame of what Intercult is working with. The idea of a project supporting women artists was thus born. After several months of collaboratively building up the transnational partnership with Fable Vision and Platform 2, sharpening the idea, the Woven Network was finally ready for the first application. It was a long process. It took, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months. And the miracle, and grants are always a miracle as competition is so big, happened thanks to the successful grant from Ukraine, and the grant was from the House of Europe. Then we could work with 8 artists from Ukraine, Scotland, and Poland and Sweden for 6 months, and the results are shown on the webpage which I think Alice showed us before. All the artists, all the presentations are gathered there. And then we applied to the Nordic Culture Fund for the extended continuation of this collaboration using the same methodology as developed in the Ukraine-led projects. And we thought that the formats could be adapted in more countries than that. So even Scotland continued with own branch of the collaboration. And today we are launching this digital exhibition. We are about to close the second edition of the woven art, thanks to, as Alice said, Nordic Culture Fund and our partners, Fable Vision in Scotland again, Transfer World Festival in Norway, Odin Theatre Laboratory in Denmark, reaching out to the Nordics. I would also like to thank especially the communication team from Ukraine, Diana Berry, Vera and Alex. Vera is behind the driving wheel today of this event. So without further notice, I would like to give the word to artists, our main actors of this event. Thank you. Over to Kasia.
Hey, I was thinking I will be the last because talking on the end about our exhibition, which has happened in real, but okay, I can take it and then we show it on the end anyway. So my name is Katarzyna Piórek. I'm a visual artist based in Stockholm. I was invited to that. I was applying to be in the project, and I was so happy to be chosen. And I'm feeling that this opportunity to work with 3 artists was very interesting stuff. Even in the beginning, we had this problem that, or I had the problem that it might happen that I don't like the digital residency. It happened that it turned in very creative collaboration. So we had really great fun, and we discovered together the space, the square space, which we took it as a dance floor, as a screen, as a canvas where we could paint. So we were trying to really think about this digital space, about this screen space as our place to exchange our thoughts, exchange our experiences, exchange or collaborate just and inspire each other. And then in the beginning, we you can see in the website our session when we were discovering and working together. And later on, we focus more or less on our own topics. So I can show you my own project, which I developed under the residency, where I, of course, I invited my colleagues to take part, where we make an exhibition in Studio 44 together. And the title was Kluven, which we translate in different languages, in every possible language, and it was Brynhild which was busy and Dina with translation. So that was interesting for me when all my colleagues also talk about Kluven, which means they talk about it from its own perspective. So then I could see it from distance, how you can think about the same thing through your own practice. I will show and talk about my own work, which is, I think it's just the beginning, and I will research much more. But I think it will take some long time to be ready, and on the end I hope it will be film. So here is the project which I started to illustrate also, and in the project I was focusing on invisible problems which are touching, or which are really bothering immigrants. And I collected many interviews which I cut into the audio, which you can find on the internet site, and it's like 10 minutes edition. And I pick up just words which I identify and created my own statement, my own visual statement from all interviews. So here is the description, and you can find it also on the net, so you can read it. So when I took these words which were just very strong for me, then I was thinking like, okay, this is the voice that I could say, I could use, and I can create my own story from picking up the stories from other immigrants. So we have something in common. We have the same experiences. Here are the question which I was asking when I was interviewing women, and I try to focus on questioning quite abstract. I didn't want to know where did you come to Sweden, where did you emigrate. I was more interested in that I hear something which touches emotional, and they can describe in a picture or in a form. It's hard to explain, but I was more interested in feelings, about to reach really the feeling of being immigrants. I don't know if it's easy to understand what I mean, but I wanted to touch really deep, and I think I managed, because our conversation, which took very long time, and I had like I recorded maybe 2 hours or 3 hours every person, and cut pieces. So I think I got to the bottom as long. So then these pictures are interpretation and little visuals for what I picked from interview, and all of my voices, let's say, they were more or less split, and they were talking that, yes, I'm here, but I'm a little bit not the same person as I was, and they couldn't find really who are they. So they were talking about that it's not so easy to function in a society, and that's my illustrations to that, trying to work with identity as a fingerprints. And maybe someone has already some question to help me to explain something, because I feel like I lost the thread. I don't know. So this is the illustration and a little book I prepared.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering whether have you narrowed down any of these differences between what it means to be an immigrant and in comparison to regular citizen who has always lived in their country? Have you identified anything in particular?
I identify that it's not so easy, because generally you have to really work much more, and you have to really first of all work with the language, which is also a bit different, and it's also connected to mentality. You have to jump over. Somehow told me that to emigrate is like losing 10 years from your life, because you have to learn. You have to offer this 10 years to start again. So that was interesting. But recently I read some article of a Polish theater director who is living here in Stockholm. Of course, I forgot his name, but he was telling that soon all of us we will be immigrants, more or less 80%. People are moving. So it will be a common global problem. So that's also interesting. And thinking about it and making research. I think it will help people to just have a look or to be able to open for the locals, the ones who are not emigrating, to try to understand what the other has to deal with, what the other have to struggle with. And then under pandemic, it's even worse because we are more lonely, we are more depressed because we have no direct contact. So this increases much more. I don't know if I answer your question, but I think it's hard to make some easy answer.
Thank you. And it's also interesting that many of our artists, I mean, 3 out of 4 of our Nordic artists are actually not originally from their Nordic country. So our project has really been working with this topic already from the selection of you who are working with it.
I have one question, Kasia.
Yes.
What kind of roads ahead can you see in this work? You talk about making a movie in the end.
Yeah, this is my my dream, to make a movie at the end, to tell people the story that even some people move because of war, some people move because of some economic situation, but all of us, we are facing the same struggles on the end. Some people have traumas, yes, but some people move here and they have to struggle as well to lose this, let's say, 10 years to learn again the new society, language, people, to be able to function. And many people don't think about it, that this is also a lot of work for the ones who came, and they want to feel they want to be useful, they want to be part of the society. That's all. So I want to talk about it, just to show that this is also the thing to think about it.
I will just jump in. Sorry, unless Brynhild, you wanted to comment?
No, it's okay. Yeah.
I only wanted to say to our viewers that if I share my screen now again, you can see Kasia's work. If we go to the main page of Woven Network, you go to projects, scroll down, you can read about the exhibition itself. Kasia is here hidden behind the camera view. And there she also has her video work that you can watch. You can read the text that she has shown and see the images. That was something I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Would you like to add anything now, or shall we move on to Dina now?
I think we can go forward, and then we can talk about the exhibition on the end.
Wonderful. Dina, you have the stage now.
Thank you. So this is Dina, and I'm a performing artist coming from the performing world. I'm a theatre director and have been invited to join the project. And just to follow the thread of thoughts that Kasia has been sharing with us, I come to think of that we are all immigrants in this digital world. to this digital world. We are all immigrated from our theater spaces to the digital world, from our studios, from our physical libraries, from our physical human contact into this digital world. So in fact, we are now all immigrants in it, and we are learning how to be and to exist and to communicate. And I will share some of our few moments how as immigrants we were. So you can all see a little bit and get in touch of how we experimented. And as Kasia said, she had challenges with it and dislike to the digital spaces. And it was fantastic that all of four of us, we shared this common unease about being in a digital space. And that was the interesting investigation of how do we exist in this space, how do we experiment with it. And here I share with you some of our first moments, how as artists we existed in our digital space. Do you see it as full screen? These are captures that came out very much like artistic work, really like that is still amazing for me to see how much we can also change or exist in a different way. The art forms and artworks, and these are just captures of a session that you can find online where we were experimenting with backgrounds, with all the technology that the communication technologies that we are using now give us. But in reality, there's artistic work that could come out of that. And these were all from a live session. Existing in colors. And it was so beautiful in the beginning because we were so much trapped in this 2x2 dimensions. We called it 2x2. And I think we needed this colors. We needed to experiment with trying to experiment the physical space of the screen of 2x2. And as Kasia said, when you are immigrating and starting all over, so we are really like experimenting basically, very basic stuff with our humble computers and playing around as really like just trying to learn this language of this digital space. Despite that, we always use phones and we have all done maybe videos and documentaries, but it's different when you are living and trying to practice your own practice in the digital space. So I find those very good memories of some good times we stayed together and really artworks that just came out from interacting with the digital space. Then I would like to share with you what it meant for us. How did it feel for us back then? I'm going to share with you live elements. One moment. Just a few seconds of our first session. Then you understand what it meant for us, really, and how we were.
But that one's too easy for me, so you can have that one, Brynhild, maybe.
In the classroom. Oh, well, the virtual classroom. I can talk about the virtual classroom, that we are all a little bit, we have like this Zoom fatigue or virtual fatigue for the moment in different degrees.
Yeah.
So I think this laboratory that we are in now is kind of a relief because it's really hard to teach through digital platforms. Maybe not the story, but but something, yeah.
Well, it's a commentary, isn't it? I think it's how we're all feeling.
Yeah.
I think this was in response to that feeling, maybe, was it, that we wanted to do something a little bit more experimental?
Yeah, make it easier and more playful. Yeah. Okay.
So this was the feeling. This is where we were. In reality, that's where we were ready out there when we were all back then. And it was this really free space for us. This residency gave us a space where we could meet and we could speak together and work together. First, there was this curiosity. So it was good to be offered this generous space and invitation to come together. And as Kasia pointed out, we then moved on working on our own practice and on our own projects. And for myself, the same questions actually that we had all together been investigating, the direct contact. And because of the pandemic, I had always had this, because I come from the physical world and the contact, so much contact world. And then I have been investigating the public space and the human need to reconstruct the communication with each other. And this is what we have lost of the basic human need, is to just give a hug or touch someone. And these have been taken for granted. And for myself, in the window where the COVID dropped a little bit, I had a chance to spring over with my colleagues here in Rinköping and at the municipality where I'm working at the moment, being an artist also in residence, to try to investigate more how we can bring together the community, work with children, work with adults, work with colleagues, how to try to investigate coming together and breaking this fear of the being together in the public space, touching each other, really giving a hug to one each other. And it was interesting to be, when I'm working on this, to be in dialogue also with our colleagues here in the project, because a lot of the questions, they helped us to investigate many of those questions that we were all living differently. So here I share with you a few minutes of a video that has been edited by Kasia, and I found enormous support from the team in my investigation. The project was mostly for the participants who were in the project, who were having their own headphones, listening to a music that has been composed by Basil Hodges. And it was for them who were in the scene itself. It was not for viewers. And despite that people were feeling okay. The moments when they were coming close to each other and the feeling afterwards was very immense, because it was really strong to become together and to be in a circle together, to touch each other. It was very immense, and there was very high excitement in the group. And there was also some kind of an estrangement that you want to hug, but you want to keep protected. And it was interesting to go to the schools. So my role was to go out. This was a prova that you are seeing now. I have been going out to the schools, working with school children, working with my colleagues from the Kommune. For example, here it was very strong for them, very, very strong for them. And of course, I have been reading a lot about collecting some images, investigating a hug that is free in the space, collecting also what the journalists, what the advices were on hugging. And there were some elements that were really, really strange for us to say. There is an advice on hugging. We're stopping hugging from Monday, for example. It's like, this is really, and I think I wanted to document those moments that we've been through during the COVID times, those small moments of the human need to be together, and those our everyday gestures. I wanted to document this for the sake of us to understand what we have of human connections. And then if you go online, as Alice was mentioning, you can see the full video of the children with everybody, with the children doing the project itself. Same thing, then you can read a little bit more about it, and then you can see the live session with all 186 people from all ages. It was quite interesting that they were all, some of them, they didn't know each other. They just came to the grass plain, got their headphones, and were working together and meeting someone, a stranger, and just really giving that person a hug and having some music and direction on your ears. So that's what I have tried to connect with the group and converse with them, what I'm doing, how I communicate, how I communicate with my practice, coming from the performance arts world, theater, dance, and how can I get this here? So there was an immense help from the group to take the work that I'm doing and maybe putting it in the Kluven, because I think I have been the least active in making the same artwork for the digital space, because I'm from the performance art world, and there was an immense help from the other artists in the group to keep me alive and present in the project, and not, because it was easy for me just to be so busy in my own world outside. So that was always pulling me in, and there was an immense kindness and generosity, and yes, there's a lot of projects that now I dream of making with our 3 artists. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. This strong collaboration is not so common, I think, in art projects. So I'm really glad that it turned out this way for you, and you feel positive about meeting these people. But Brynhild, I will pass on to your presentation.
Did you say Brynhild? Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I have a problem with the sound, I think. Can you hear me? Yeah. First, I just want to thank everybody sitting here listening to Dina's reflections and Kasia talking about her project. It's really nice, and I'm really thankful for being with you these months in this residency. So thank you for all the inspiration. Yeah, so I'm Brynhild. I'm based in Trondheim, Norway, and I also appreciated our common experimentation in Zoom, as Dina talked about. But I have sort of prepared a presentation about my individual work. So I'll talk about the Kintsugi Project and also the new work I'm presenting in this exhibition. So I'll start with the latest photographic work I did in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, just to tell you a little bit about my intention, about my struggles working with photography as art. I'll share my screen and I'll show you an actual physical book in the end, a real object, if the webcam will function. So I'll show you this one. Sorry, just one moment. Okay. So during the COVID-19 pandemic in May 2020, I did the photographic series Frontline Cleaning Workers. I met female employees at different workplaces in Trondheim who cleaned the common areas, including women's and men's toilets, disinfecting gripping points, door handles, and surfaces. Not once a week as they did before the pandemic, but several times a day. So if you remember, the coronavirus showed us which profession performs a socially critical task, and cleaning became one of them. Suddenly, cleaning workers could raise their head and they became everyday heroes and got some well-deserved attention. But now we have forgotten them again. Now it's the doctors and the nurses who gets the most attention, something they deserve, of course. But for a while, a typical woman, low status profession was appreciated by the society. A profession with large physical burdens, requirements for accuracy and knowledge, and with a high percentage of immigrants. So I've tried through the years to see the ones who deserves attention, women and migrant women in particular, to give them a voice and to tell stories about a social issue that needs attention. I've struggled with how to photograph people, how to approach unknown people, how to make a connection. I was shy. It was hard in the beginning, but in time my development grew. I developed a sensibility and techniques to create instant intimacy. In this work, I find myself attracted to certain types of pictures. The ones with a credible energy, with no posing, no staging, no manipulation, with layers of stories in one single picture as a truth witness, pictures that tells a story according to journalistic principles. It's a bit old-fashioned, but it has some values for me. This picture has a kind of clarity. It's descriptive. I like her pose. She's like a dancer about to say something. But the picture a bit simple, maybe not expensive enough. I also like to present art in alternative public spaces. to meet people outside the white gallery cube. That is appealing to me, like in this slide. The series Frontline Cleaning Workers is presented in the windows of my home. There is also a political activist element in that by challenging the concept of who is allowed to tell stories in a public space. So there is always this photography thing. Sorry. So there is always this photography thing going on. It never stops. Or did it? The pandemic has for sure affected my artistic practice in terms of taking other kinds of photographs. So I've been shooting a lot of my husband. I'm not sure if he's so happy about that, but not so much of unknown people of obvious reasons. To come close enough to my subjects, I started in 2006 to invite people to participate, to become participant in my projects. I started working directly with members of the public. I did photo workshops. I've been teaching photography for a long time. I am a graduated as a teacher. Using this kind of participatory methodologies made my work easier in a way. Easier to build trust, easier to get access, and quite frankly, several stories are better than one story, my story. So this was my background before starting with the Kintsugi Project during the COVID-19 pandemic. A group of women came together to discuss, investigate, and share experiences of being next of kin. They approached me after a meeting where they discussed what to do when life crumbles. How can we start over? How can we cope in critical stages of our lives? I was curious and unsure about how to work with my core questions. I wondered how to engage with these participants in a useful way, in a user-friendly way. Do participants have a real influence, or is it a pseudo-influence? To what extent should I direct during the creative process, in all parts or a few parts? What kind of documentary methods, as in different ways of collecting materials, could I use? What elements exist and what form do they take? And the big question was, how can I work with social photography during a pandemic? So I had a lot of questions, and the answer to the last one was probably no. Because of the pandemic, I did not take any photographs of the participants, which I normally do, with a few exceptions. Here we are, 3 of us planning the project. So we met outside several times. We began a mobile photography workshop. We actually met physically and had a hybrid workshop in the first gathering. So we were like 5 or 6, and the rest were participating on Zoom. The workshop became the basis for further research and exhibitions. The participant was asked to use their voice through photography, and the method is called photo voice, by telling stories from their lives through the camera lens. And that is not a new thing, to use photography in social project. Wendy Evell did that in the 60s, but I think today there is perhaps more co-directing. It's quite fulfilling to be a teacher when you see the development amongst the participants, from learning basic skills to, in the end, visual communication. The participants made mind maps about being next of kin and chose 6 words from the mind map to use in a visual story from their lived reality. The first iteration of the Kintsugi project was exhibited in Trondheim in the summer of 2021, outdoor in a market square. And I think when artist works with other people outside or in the community, or with the public side of art, if you like, intangible elements becomes important, like how to be humble, how to explain, how to be clear, how to build relations, how to help each other, how to create energy, and how to encourage and guide each participants, many whom never exhibited before, to be a part of a very public exhibition. In the secondary exhibition at Studio 44 in Stockholm, I used this material in my artistic work. Kasia invited us to be a part of the Woven exhibition very generously. And the theme, as also Kasia mentioned, was split or divided or Kluven. And that was easy to transfer to my own practice. I thought of the tension between my photography work and the participation. Two parts divided but not separate. I found myself attracted to a way of editing photographs with written comments and arrows. I saw this on a Facebook page titled Reminders Photographer's Stronghold from Tokyo. So I printed the participants' photographs and wrote my comments directly on the prints. This was a way to show the different parts or the different elements of the Kintsugi project, if you like. I was testing an idea. So this is titled Pencil Scrolls in the Margin. It's 12 photos and 12 writings. The only photographs I did was some portraits of the participants. A photographic portrait is always a result of a conscious collaboration between two people on either side of the camera. What matters to me is showing what lies below the surface, capturing the essence of people. The work felt at the time, and still is, a little gimmicky, maybe the weakest part of the work I presented in Stockholm, but it's okay to try things, I think. The series became a metaphor of the connection between me and the participants, titled A Point of Exchange. And talking about authenticity, I really like a new video I made for the Woven exhibition. I interviewed one of the participants who talked about her anxiety of infecting someone else. She opened up. She was not afraid of showing parts of her reality in the pandemic. She also wrote a text from the reality of being a public worker within mental health. Participating demands courage, a great deal of courage, and this participants was not in shortage of that. The video was titled I'm Terrified of Infecting Someone Else. And now I will try to show you the last work from the Woven exhibition. Just one moment. Okay, can you see? So this is an artist book I made. It's called the Kintsugi Project. I've tangled with questions about how to make a book for some time. Books as an art object, not as information or non-fiction books, but as art. I'm trying to navigate and edit and find an order from the first page to the last page. In this book, I've tried to make the project available, but not in a non-fiction way, but as a kind of photo album. And the book contains contributions both from me and the participants. So I just go through it quite quickly. Okay, so I go a little bit faster. So like this. This is also a transcription of the video, both in Norwegian and English. And we also spoke with, people from the municipality who work with next of kin. And this is the exhibition. And the photo workshop. And in back, there's this mind maps from the participants. They're quite nice. Okay, so that's the artist book. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so, sorry. So in the end, I'll show you the latest work, which is on the website. It's called 3 Articles. And it's 3 single web pages linked together through related stories. And it's published today. And again, I'm trying to reinvent the material, making new connections to my narrative work and journalism, telling 3 different stories from the Kintsugi Project in another format this time. I've chosen to present art in an editorial article format, using reporting as a technique to address social issues. And this time the topic, next of kin during a pandemic. So I just show you the pages. This is based on the video I told you about. I'm terrified of infecting someone else. And you can read also a transcription of from this video. It's a strong story, if you could say that. So I recommend to read it. And on this page, you can also go to the second story, being next of kin, so much more than family. In the project, we have a broad definition of next of kin. You normally hear of next of kin if you're sick, or if it's inheritance, something. But we also thought of next of kin as our neighbor or children or anyone who are close to you. So these are my colleagues in Trondheim. We did a project in the beginning of the pandemic, and I looked upon them as my next of kin. And I've written about what can artists do in time of crisis? What values emerges? Are artists as much on the front lines of the pandemic as essential workers are? And the last story, powerful visual stories about being next of kin, is about the participants' photographies. So this is the outdoor exhibition which I showed you before, and you can browse through some images of the exhibition. And this is the participants during the opening. And I have one picture of each, and I have written a short text about their contribution. Like this one was one of the strongest pictures, I think, in the exhibition. Her husband got Lewy body dementia at 56 years old. So this is him celebrating his 60 years anniversary or birthday at an institution. So it was really strong stories, and you can go down and see several of them. Okay, so this is me, yeah.
Thank you so much, Brynhild. That was really well prepared. Really interesting to see the link also from one project to another as it's presented on the website. That works really well, I think. I will, because Emma, she's not with us, I will, her work is quite intimate. She has been exploring the topics of grief and loss of her mother. So what I will do is that I will show her actual Woven Voices session where she will talk, where she talks about her project.
Okay, my name is Emma Hirsk. I'm from Northern Ireland, but I'm based, living and working in Stockholm, Sweden.
That sounds good, I think, no?
Yes.
Several reasons, really, both professional and personal. I wanted to participate in the Woven Network Nordics because it's an opportunity to be a part of something unique, I think, like a pan-Scandinavian, pan-European project. And it focuses on women's role in the pandemic and women's voices in the pandemic, which is very unusual. And it also gave me a chance to move beyond my own arts practice as a kind of isolated artist in my studio, but to connect with other artists across Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Yeah, and see how the community sector works across Scandinavia, really, and across Europe a little bit more. Gives you a bit of insight. And connect with female artists was a great part of it as well. So, many ways. I think any of the artists that we've worked with, especially those of us that are from a different country that have come here, have been affected in many ways, personally and professionally. Being from Northern Ireland and living and working in Sweden, with all of that kind of entails with COVID, has kind of affected everything, really, to be honest. In terms of the digital residency for Woven Network Nordic, the digital framework gave us a chance to, even though the pandemic was ongoing, to really explore and immerse ourselves, I think, in strategies for working remotely. So the residency gave us that opportunity to do that, and to think, communicate, produce work, collaborate together, and disseminate works in a remote way. So, I mean, in terms of artistic practice, I think COVID didn't affect the residency, but it was set up for that, to cope with that, I think. In terms of my work, it's directly influenced the work that I've done for the project. So the themes in my own work are to do with grief. The theme of my project is grief cartographies. So it looks at grief kind of, and how the pandemic and how grief affects across borders, across countries, across travel, and all of those things have been affected by COVID. I lost my mother earlier this year, and she's from Northern Ireland. So I've been working across kind of this project between Sweden and Ireland and trying to make work that helps with that somehow helps with grief in the time of a pandemic, really. Yeah. Well, the work, I've just mentioned it briefly, that I created for this project for the Woven Network is called Grief Cartographies, is titled that, and it looks at kind of private and collective loss, trauma and grief within the pandemic, within the context of the pandemic. Like I said, I'm from Northern Ireland, but I live and work in Sweden. I have done for a few years now. And so this project was born from the really kind of deeply private loss of my mum earlier this year, but it's also contextualized against the backdrop of the pandemic. So it looks at restrictions across travel, borders, contact, care, family, illness, touch, all of those things that come with grief and things like that. So my research for this project has looked at time and touch, distance, identities, memories, geography. It's covered lots of things to do with very personal things as well, but also to do with the pandemic as well. And the residency has let me do that. So yeah, it kind of started with drawings and writings, notes, maps to do with being between Ireland and Sweden, sculptures, films, photographies. It's been a long residency, so we've been able to really kind of immerse ourselves, I think, in the process. For the final exhibition, I suppose we had the exhibition in Stockholm in Studio 44, which was, I suppose, 3/4 of the way through the residency. So my final exhibition will build upon that. It will be a collation of sculpture, photographic and film works that have been developed over the course of the residency, but it will also incorporate new works that I've been working on since the exhibition in Stockholm in September. I suppose the new works, as time goes on, some things get easier. So my mum was a photographer as well, and I've started using, it's taken time, but I've started using her camera to kind of use in my practice. She was a film photographer as well. So I started using that and taking photographs of that. So some of the new works are film works, analog photography works that will be included in the final exhibition, and just different ways of looking and seeing. So I kind of feel when I use the camera, it's very personal, but I feel like I can show her things and she can see things even though she's not with me. So I'm using her camera as a new way of seeing, as a way to kind of connect with my mother, and also make work that kind of helps with the grief, really. So I suppose, you know, it's in different ways. So new works will be a combination of everything from this year. Yeah. I think we've touched on a few things, just chatting briefly, but I think the real benefit to this residency, the Woven Network Nordic residency, has been the time to create like a full body of work, and to have time to think. I sometimes find when you're making work, and with everything else that we have to do as artists, you don't often get time to think about what you want to say. You have an idea and you make it. But this has given us time to think about what we're making and then make work based on that, and base work, you know, in different ways. So it's given us time. It's also given so many opportunities for collaboration, for connection, and solidarity as well with other women artists working in these conditions across, like yourself, you know, in different parts of Europe and Scandinavia, and giving us insight into different ways that artists and cultural producers work, normally and in these kind of exceptional circumstances as well, you know, to make connections across Europe, which has been incredible. And to meet other women artists and feel like you have some kind of connection with them has been amazing, actually. Yeah, so it benefits on lots of different levels, really.
Should I show the works of Emma?
If that's okay with you, Brynhild, that would be great. I was just testing the sound on my computer and it's also low.
Yeah. So projects, Emma.
Brynhild, can you enlarge your screen, your window?
Yeah.
So we don't see all the other background stuff.
Yeah. One moment.
It's above the Woven Network logo.
Okay. Sure. see. So there's 3 videos and still pictures. Yeah.
Why don't you speak up? Why don't you use your voice? Why don't you shut up? Be quiet. You are gone. I am lost. I am still here, still breathing, still moving, still mothering, an automaton of care. But what do I do now? Pain, grief, loss are just words. The tear inside, the hole that means that I do not want to heal. It is the place where you were, my irreplaceable. I am still me, always separate, always myself, single-minded. I could be, because you were constant. I went my own way, but you were my glorious roadmap. But what now? How do I go on without you?
Thank you, Brynhild. We are running quite even longer than we thought we might. So if you want to see the rest of Emma's work and everyone else's works, actually, then check the website that we have presented. But also, what I mentioned at the beginning, the project is presented on Intercult's website, so you can also have a look there. And I wonder if we should, if you would just like to say a few brief words about the Woven exhibition. Kasia, I think you were elected to be responsible for navigating our audience towards that project online. So maybe just in a few minutes, if you can say something about that.
Yes, so I would like to just share, we make a documentation of the exhibition, which we had the opportunity to make in real gallery, not digital anymore, in Gallery Studio 44 in Stockholm in September last year. So if you go to Studio 44, I share the screen. So you have a chance to check virtual tour 360, and then you can have a little bit of possibility to see our gallery and our place where we showed. And of course, we kept, we moved from the Zoom space to gallery space, but we couldn't get rid of our square space. So that was interesting. And so we show our films like this, and then Brynhild and Dina were talking about it. We show our work, which was already shown in details by Brynhild. Someone else want to add something? So it looks like this. It's documentation, and the films you can see here and on the page of Intercult and Woven Network. That's what I can say.
It was amazing how this connection went just beyond this 2x2 into making physical exhibition, into you traveling to Brynhild. Like, it was interesting how much this communication went out from this digital space into different other digital spaces and meetings. I think for me, what is successful of this project is that the connection that happened between the people. I couldn't be traveling to any of those locations and meeting, but there has been an immense connection and effort from the participants to be connected. I think that is was very important, is to be connected, to stay connected, to try to translate what is connection, how to verbalize it, how to express it with the artwork. So I really would like to thank you all, Kasia, Brynhild, and Emma, very much for being there and also becoming like a family every day together, or saying frankly, being so frank to each other, and it's like, no, I can't hear you anymore, and now I will be with you, and no, I'm not. Like, it's so beautiful to be together, really. And thank you, Yvonne and Alish, for facilitating this. You have been so generous to let us be in the way we want it to be. Especially Alice, we had a lot of beautiful moments and discussions, but also I think meeting here in Denmark when you came with Kasia was very important. So I think the physical meeting, we can never ever say that we can live without this. We will continue to investigate digitally, but I think to physically meet is another dimension. So thank you, Intercult, and all the Woven Network women. we're weaved.
Forever. Thank you, Dina. Really nicely put. I think the digital journey is really challenging and really interesting, but I also don't believe it can replace the real life. But it's not even meant. That's never been the intention, as we know. It's only one of the ways to investigate the current situation, which is difficult on its own in the physical world. But I think we actually do not have so much time for the intended discussion today, unless there is some big question that we would like to pose to each other. Ivona, you look like there is a big question behind your glasses.
No, I have no questions. I would like to thank everybody. I'm so glad to hear that you also had a good time together, breaking the isolation of own studios or not. However, being together, it has been almost a year in this project, and time flies really. When you start, you think it's a really, really long journey. When you quit it, it seems that it has been a short time, but I think that still it was quite a generous space, time-wise also. And I agree with Alice and Dina that we can never be without physical meetings. We tried to meet even in this project in Denmark, in Norway, in Trondheim. Thank you, Brynhild, for organizing that beautiful trip. And also here in Stockholm, thanks to Kasia. So I am also thankful for those moments of interaction when we could meet and exchange feelings and touches and thoughts in real life. And I just want to say after Dina, stay connected, don't disappear. We all have qualities. We can collaborate together in the future. There are still projects that are opening. So as soon as you can see any ideas growing up, popping up in your head, come back to this little circle, which will grow because we are just about to start. We started actually the third collaboration, which is the Woven Network Sweden with 4 Swedish artists on board, working for coming 4 months. But the development is, as I said, still possible. It's opened, and welcome to stay connected.
And I can only agree with Ivona that thank you so much, all the 4 of you, Emma as well, who we have missed today, for your hard work and engagement with the project. I think it's difficult to work with such a long project. It gives different opportunities, but it also, I mean, it is you can get tired from working with the same subject for 9 months. Who wouldn't? So I really appreciate the work and that you stayed on. And yes, I hope that we will see each other again in some other context, perhaps. I would like to thank our viewers. Hopefully you will visit the websites, Woven Artworks and Intercode, and have a look at more of the art that you haven't managed to see today. There is a lot we haven't shown, so have a look for yourselves. Thank you, and goodbye to the public, and our artists can still stay on. We just stopped the live stream.